Outside of town, out on the bald prairie, is an urban explorer's dream. Seriously, cruising down the lonely highways and the isolated backroads, one is confronted by ghosts, abandoned farms, and farmhouses. The plains were once dominated by family farms, but as farms got bigger and more people left the land, the houses were left behind to slowly fade into the landscape. We loved exploring these places where people's lives had unfolded and enjoyed taking pictures and video of our discoveries. And that is what we were doing this fall afternoon. It was an overcast day, and I was getting worried that we might get caught in a rain shower, or, this time of year, a possible snow squall, and on a dirt road too. Unfortunately, we had reached an area where we were about equal distance from all the roads leading back to town. In other words, we were out in the middle of nowhere, which is when we spotted the house. If a dwelling could look like a ghost, this place sure did. Its wooden siding was weathered and cracked by the elements and by years of neglect. It had been white once, but now it was a leprous gray, and the black shingled roof was sagging in front like black bangs falling into a pair of eyes, the eyes being the missing front windows. We had to stop. Had to. Casey, Elaine, Patrick, and moi. "Let me get some shots of the outside against the gray sky," Patrick said. He had a proper digital camera, while the rest of us just used our phones. The sky gives it a really dramatic quality. "Yeah. I just hope it doesn't start snowing," I said. To be honest, I would have been just as happy to be heading back, but... "You worry too much," Elaine laughed. But there was an edge to her voice, which I didn't like. It truly was an isolated spot. The house faced onto the dirt road, while behind it stretched brown fields underneath a graphite sky. A pair of dirt ruts led up to the place, a primitive driveway, whilst beside the dwelling was a gnarled tree barren of leaves. In back stood a barn of weathered, unpainted boards. We stepped onto the sagging porch, entering through the opening where the front door had been. We had expected to find the place in shambles, but instead, the living room was empty of furnishings, but not empty. The wooden floorboards appeared relatively clean, although there was a woman's sweater and some empty wine bottles scattered about. And there was also a Ouija board in the middle of a circle of gutted candles. "Looks like somebody was having a seance," Elaine said, again with her sardonic laugh. "In an abandoned house? In the middle of nowhere?" I said. "Spooky." Casey wanted to use the Ouija board to see if we could contact any spirits which might be present. I wasn't enthusiastic, as I really wanted to start heading back. Patrick went outside, saying he was going to take some pictures of the barn before it got too dark. "I guess we should light what's left of these candles if we're going to use the Ouija board," Casey suggested. "Okay," I said, "but be sure to blow them out when we leave." "Oh, you worry too much. Elaine snarked. She was smiling when she said it, but again, there was that edge. Besides, she was repeating herself. Casey lit the candle stubs, and we knelt around the board, fingers on the planchette. She began with the standard question. Is there anyone there? The planchette moved quickly to yes. You're moving it, Elaine accused me. I'm not even touching it, I snapped. I was getting really, really tired of this woman. Look, it's moving by itself, Casey squeaked, and sure enough, the planchette was rocketing back and forth, spelling out L-E-A-V-E. Leave. Fine by me. I think this is our cue to go, I announced, as lightly as possible. Why? Elaine again. I was just about to open my mouth and tell her off when we both heard Casey gasp. We turned towards her, noticed her horrified expression, and then looked to see what she was staring at. Standing in a doorway off to our left was the figure of a woman in a white night dress, or shroud. She stood stooped forward, so her long black hair covered her face, and as we watched in petrified silence, she raised her head, and we saw her face, the bloated, greenish-purple face of a corpse, its mouth split in a grinning rictus of death. I grabbed Casey by the arm and pulled her towards the front door, while behind me I heard Elaine bursting into peals of hysterical laughter. Once outside, I told Casey to get in the car and to lock all the doors. "What about Elaine?" she cried, tears running down her flushed cheeks. "Elaine can take care of herself," I bellowed. I'm going to get Patrick." And then I was off. I didn't look back to see if Casey had obeyed me or not. The entrance to the old barn was a gaping black hole. I charged into it, yelling, "Patrick! Patrick!" And then I stopped dead. Patrick was in the middle of the shambling barn, hanging from a beam, his body swaying in a gentle arc, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back. I ran over to him to see if I could get him down. But he was dead. I think he was dead. I wanted to get him down, but I didn't have a knife or anything to cut with. And then the woman, the dead thing in white, the ghost, was standing in the open doorway of the barn, staring in at me, and that slash-like mouth, I think it was smiling at me, smiling. There was a gap in the wall at the rear of the barn, and I took it, all the time saying, over and over, Patrick, I'm so sorry, man. I'm so sorry." I said it in my mind, I think. Or maybe I did say it out loud. I ran for the car, consumed with the idea of getting away, not thinking things clearly. If this thing in white was a ghost, it really couldn't hurt me, right? Right? Then why was I so overwhelmed by fear, stark primal fear? And what happened to Patrick? He was dead, right? Right? Maybe he was still alive. Maybe. Gotta get help. Help! The car! I reached the car in a matter of moments and was about to open my door when I saw it. Casey didn't appear to be in the car, but the dead woman was sitting in the driver's seat, my seat, looking up at me. God, that smile! I took off and began running across the wide expanse of prairie. The darkness was beginning to take control, and I kept looking behind me to see if I was being followed, and I thought I could see something white and flapping in the shadows. So I started to run harder. I had no plan, just to get to a road or somewhere where there might be some traffic and I could get some help. God, these fields were so huge, endless. After what felt like hours, I came to a road. Asphalt. That meant it was a major road, that there would be cars. Off in the gloom, I could see the beams of approaching headlights and felt deliverance was at hand. I waited, and as the car approached, I could see it was a beige Toyota Camry, and that it was my car. My car. It stopped where I was standing, and the driver rolled down its window. It was the ghost, the reanimated corpse, and it was still gaping at me with that sardonic and predatory grin. Casey, Elaine, and Patrick were in the back seat. I wasn't sure if any of them were still alive. No one spoke, but a voice in my head said, "Get in." I got in. Did I have a choice? Besides, they appeared to be going my way. If this is your first visit to my channel, please consider subscribing. My name is Warren, and I write and tell original ghost stories and original horror stories featuring such cryptids as the Night Floaters, werewolves, and the Black-Eyed Children. So again, please consider subscribing. Please help me to reach my goal of 2,021 subs in 2021. Till midnight. Cheers. Pictures used in today's video, courtesy of Pix Here, that's PX Here, while the music was Living in the Dark by the wonderfully talented Mayu.